Ethan Cole had always been a light sleeper, but that night even he could not have expected what would happen. The corridors of the colony were silent, except for the faint hum of the life support systems. Outside, the stars shone cold and distant, a reminder of how far this human settlement floated from Earth. Ethan had spent the day fixing malfunctioning circuits in the engineering wing, and now, late at night, he was returning to his quarters when something unusual stopped him in his tracks. It was a sound, soft, trembling, almost broken. At first, Ethan thought it was a malfunctioning machine, but as he paused, his instincts told him otherwise. There was crying, delicate and sorrowful, coming from the far end of the corridor. He frowned, curiosity and concern mixing in his mind. The colony had its share of workers, humans, and aliens alike, but he had never heard an alien cry in this way before. "Hello?" he called softly, unsure if anyone could even understand him. The crying did not stop. He stepped closer, careful not to make any sudden movements. The closer he got, the more he realized that the sound was not mechanical at all. It was living, fragile, and almost human in its emotional resonance. At the end of the hallway, tucked behind a stack of maintenance crates, was a small figure. She looked unlike any being Ethan had ever met. Her skin shimmered faintly under the dim lights, a soft silver blue that seemed to ripple when she moved. Her large, luminous eyes were rimmed with dark streaks from tears, and her hands were clutching, a small toolkit trembling. Ethan's heart skipped. He had seen alien workers before, maids, helpers, and maintenance assistants, but they were usually stoic, programmed to obey, and rarely, if ever, displayed emotion. This was different. The creature before him was afraid and sad, and yet there was something familiar in her vulnerability. Something that stirred a human instinct to protect. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked, taking another careful step forward. She flinched, pulling the toolkit closer as if it were a shield. Her lips moved, forming sounds that Ethan could not recognize. He crouched slightly to appear less threatening. "I don't understand your language," he said, "but I want to help. Can you show me what's wrong?" She hesitated, then let out a soft whimper. She pointed toward a nearby door labeled Maintenance Storage, then shook her head and looked at Ethan as if to ask whether it was safe to approach. Ethan nodded slowly. "Yes, it's safe. Come on." She moved cautiously, her small, delicate steps echoing lightly on the metal floor. Ethan noticed the way her eyes darted nervously to the corners of the hallway, always alert. There was intelligence in her gaze, and yet also fear. As they entered the storage area, Ethan realized it was cluttered with tools, spare parts, and containers of equipment. The alien maid, Ethan guessed she was female, though her species was unfamiliar, paused near a crate and gestured toward it. He knelt down to see inside. His breath caught. Inside were small mechanical drones, some of them damaged, their circuits exposed. But more than that, there were notes written in an unfamiliar script that glowed faintly. The writing seemed almost alive, flowing like water across the pages. Ethan did not recognize the language, but the tone of urgency and distress was clear. The alien maid let out a soft, trembling sigh. She looked at Ethan, her luminous eyes shining. Then she pointed to herself, then to the notes, then back at him. It was clear. These documents were connected to her suffering. Ethan frowned. Why would a maid whose job was cleaning and organizing cry over technical notes? He took a deep breath and decided the only way to help was to communicate, even if imperfectly. "I want to understand," he said gently. "Can you show me?" She tilted her head, studied him for a moment, then slowly reached out and handed him one of the notes. The symbols were strange, flowing, and elegant. Ethan's first thought was that they were some kind of alien programming language, but as he traced the lines with his finger, he realized there was more. An emotional weight embedded in the script, a message of desperation and sorrow. His chest tightened. Whoever had written this, whoever had suffered so silently, needed help. Ethan looked up at the alien maid. "We'll figure this out," he said, his voice firm, though soft. She blinked at him, as if uncertain whether to believe him. Then, for the first time, a faint glow of hope appeared in her eyes. She spoke again, the tones musical and strange, and Ethan realized he could not repeat them, could not understand them fully. But the emotion was unmistakable. Fear, pain, and a deep longing for freedom. Ethan clenched his fists. He had spent years working with machines and systems, but nothing had ever touched him like this. The raw vulnerability of a living being who trusted him enough to reach out. "Don't worry," he said, more to himself than to her. "We'll figure it out together." The alien maid tilted her head, studying him, and then slowly, she gestured toward the corridor, indicating that they should leave the storage area. Ethan nodded and followed her, sensing that this was the beginning of something far bigger than a late-night rescue. Something that could change both their lives forever. As they moved through the quiet halls, Ethan's mind raced. Who had this maid been before she came to the colony? Why was she crying in secret? And what hidden truths had she seen that the colony authorities did not want anyone to know? He did not have answers yet, but for the first time in months, Ethan felt a purpose beyond circuits and maintenance logs. Tonight, he would begin a journey he could not have imagined. A journey where humans and aliens would face challenges together, and where compassion and courage would be tested in ways he could not yet foresee. And somewhere deep inside, Ethan knew that the night he first heard her crying would change everything. The next morning, the colony's corridors felt different to Ethan. The soft hum of machinery and the distant chatter of workers seemed almost like a heartbeat, guiding him towards something unknown. He couldn't stop thinking about the alien maid Lyria, as he had started calling her in his mind. Her eyes, shimmering like starlight, had stayed with him. And most of all, he could not forget the weight of her silent sorrow. Ethan returned to the maintenance area early, bringing with him a small data pad and a portable translation module he had been tinkering with for months. He wasn't sure if the module could decode alien tones or written symbols, but he had to try. Lyria was already there, standing by the crates as if waiting for him. When she saw him, she hesitated, her luminous skin dimming slightly in caution. But then, slowly, she stepped closer. Ethan knelt down, placing the data pad between them. He opened it and tapped the screen. "I want to understand your words," he said gently. "Maybe we can find a way together." Lyria tilted her head, studying him, and then extended her hands toward the data pad. Ethan handed it to her, and she touched the screen with a delicate finger. For the next several hours, they worked in silence. Lyria traced symbols on the data pad, and Ethan tried to match them with sounds he recorded from her. He noticed patterns. Some symbols repeated, always in the same order. Others seemed to express emotion rather than meaning. Slowly, Ethan realized that her language was not just words. It was a mixture of feelings, memory, and logic. At first, the task felt impossible. He could record the sounds, but translating them into anything meaningful was beyond human software. Yet humans had a unique strength, intuition. Ethan began to notice subtle shifts in Lyria's tone and gestures. When she trembled, the symbols were sharp and jagged. When she relaxed slightly, the symbols curved gently, like flowing water. He began to map her emotions onto the datapad using color codes for fear, sadness, hope, and trust. It was exhausting. Hours passed, and Ethan barely noticed. Lyria's trust grew slowly, and with each small breakthrough, her eyes glimmered with a quiet hope. At one point, she produced a small object, an alien pendant, glowing faintly, and handed it to him. She pointed to herself, then to the pendant, then made a sound that trembled with grief. Ethan's heart ached. He understood the message without words. This pendant held memories, loss, and the weight of her past. Your past. It hurt you, Ethan said softly. Lyria blinked, a single tear sliding down her cheek. She made another sound. Longer this time, almost like a cry, and then gestured toward the colony's upper levels. Ethan frowned. She wanted him to go higher? He followed her to a quiet observation deck far above the main corridors. The colony stretched out below them, a network of metal walkways, glowing panels, and distant stars through the transparent walls. Lyria pointed to a distant section of the colony, an area rarely visited by humans, and then tapped her chest. Ethan understood. This was where she had suffered most. Ethan's mind raced. The colony was supposed to be a safe place, a new beginning for humans and aliens alike. Yet here was Lyria, crying at night, burdened with secrets that could not be shared. He realized that her people, though physically strong and intelligent, were often treated as tools rather than individuals. The humans in the colony might not know the extent of her suffering, but he would. He would see and act, because that was what humans could do: notice, care, and change what needed fixing. Over the next few days, Ethan and Lyria established a routine. He would record her sounds and gestures, mapping emotions and actions to symbols on the datapad. Lyria would guide him to hidden corners of the colony, showing areas where alien workers were overburdened, ignored, or fearful. Each revelation showed him it. Ethan had never imagined the colony could hide so many secrets. Every day he had walked past corridors, labs, and storage rooms, believing the settlement was orderly and safe. But now, guided by Lyria, the alien maid who had silently suffered for so long, he saw the truth. The colony was a web of hidden dangers, carefully disguised as normal life. That morning, Lyria led Ethan to a restricted wing of the colony. The doors were sleek, metallic, and marked with warning lights. Human workers usually avoided the area, and alien staff were forbidden to enter. Lyria's hands trembled as she touched the access panel. She gestured for Ethan to watch closely. Using his engineering knowledge, he noticed tiny anomalies in the panel's circuits, signs that someone had modified the security system to hide activity rather than protect it. "This is it," Ethan whispered. "This is what you were warning me about." Lyria's large glowing eyes met his, filled with both fear and trust. She motioned toward a storage area beyond the doors. Ethan followed, careful to step lightly. Inside, the room was colder than the rest of the colony. Machines hummed quietly, some of them unfamiliar, and the walls were lined with cages and containment units. Ethan's heart pounded as he recognized what he had feared. Alien workers were being used for experimental purposes. He could see delicate alien limbs trapped behind transparent barriers. Some aliens were asleep, hooked up to monitors and tubes. Others stirred, weak and frightened, clearly having endured pain. The sight was unbearable. Ethan swallowed hard. Humans were meant to protect life, to explore the stars ethically, not become silent witnesses to suffering. And yet here was proof that some in the colony had chosen exploitation over empathy. Lyria shivered beside him. Her cries from the night before returned in Ethan's memory, and he realized their full meaning. She had witnessed this injustice, perhaps even been forced to help maintain it, and her sorrow had been too heavy to bear alone. Now, Ethan understood. The colony's authorities had been hiding crimes in plain sight, relying on obedience and fear to keep them secret. "We can't just leave them here," Ethan said firmly. Lyria nodded, though her hands shook. She pointed to the cages, then to the exit, and finally at Ethan's tools. She wanted him to act, but carefully. It was clear she had knowledge of the colony's systems, more than anyone else, and she was willing to guide him even though it frightened her. They moved quickly but silently. Lyria showed Ethan small passages through maintenance ducts and hidden control panels that bypassed security cameras. Her species had an ability to detect weaknesses in technology instinctively, and Ethan realized this combination of human ingenuity and alien perception could achieve what neither could do alone. Reaching the main control panel, Ethan began analyzing the system. He noticed encrypted codes controlling the containment units. Using his experience in programming and circuits, he started to decode them, working alongside Lyria as she interpreted the alien symbols. Hours passed, but progress came, steadily. Together, they discovered that the authorities had not just been containing aliens, they had been experimenting on them to extract rare biological data that could enhance weapons, control systems, or labor efficiency. The moral weight of this discovery struck Ethan like a blow. The colony was not just unethical, it was dangerous. If these experiments were exposed to hostile alien species or even to human settlers, it could spark conflict that might destroy lives. He understood why Lyria had cried. She had seen the colony's darkest side, and she had been powerless to stop it until now. Suddenly, an alarm buzzed faintly in the distance. Ethan froze. They had been detected. Lyria's eyes widened, and she whispered a warning in her melodic, trembling tones. Ethan didn't need translation. He knew they had to move fast. He grabbed his datapad and toolkit, guiding Lyria through a hidden passage she had shown him. The path was narrow and winding, and at one point a security patrol appeared around a corner. Ethan pressed Lyria flat against the wall, holding his breath as the guards passed by without noticing them. Every heartbeat felt like a drum in his chest. This was no longer about observation. It was about survival and action. Finally, they reached a quieter section of the colony where Ethan could regroup. Lyria pointed back toward the containment wing, then to him, and finally made a gesture indicating urgency. Ethan understood. More aliens were at risk, and their suffering would continue unless someone intervened. He took a deep breath. Humans were not perfect, but they had a unique ability, the ability to act even when fear was overwhelming, to improvise, to lead. Ethan realized that this was a moment to embrace that strength. He would not stand by. He would protect life no matter the danger. "We need allies," he said softly. Lyria nodded, her skin dimming slightly as she calmed herself. She guided him to small hidden alcoves and back corridors, showing him places where sympathetic humans and aliens might be persuaded to help. Each detail mattered. Every shortcut and blind spot in the colony's security could be used to save lives. By the time they returned to his quarters, Ethan's mind was racing. He could see the outline of a plan forming. First, they would gather intelligence. Then they would find allies. Finally, they would act to expose the colony's hidden crimes and rescue the aliens trapped in those cages. As he reviewed the datapad, Ethan realized one truth clearly. Humans could change the outcome of events because they could think creatively and courageously. Lyria had brought him here, but it was his ingenuity and resolve that would determine the success of their mission. Together they could confront injustice even when it seemed hidden and untouchable. That night, Ethan lay in his quarters, thinking of Lyria's words, the trembling tones, the cries of despair, and the hope she had given him by trusting him. He understood something fundamental. Survival and technology alone could not define humans. Empathy, courage, and action in the face of danger, these were what made them special. And somewhere deep in the restricted wing, the colony's hidden threats continued to operate, unaware that one human and one alien maid were beginning to unravel their secrets and prepare for change. Ethan could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. The hidden threats within the colony were bigger than he had imagined, and the suffering of Lyria's people was far from over. He knew that alone, he could do very little. But humans had a strength beyond technology. They could inspire, persuade, and lead. And he would need every ounce of that strength. The next morning, he returned to the maintenance area, where Lyria was waiting. Her luminous eyes flickered with a quiet determination. She had become his guide, not just through the colony's hidden corridors, but also through the emotional complexity of her world. Ethan greeted her softly. "We can't save everyone alone," he said. "We need help." Lyria tilted her head and gestured toward the colony. Her hands traced patterns in the air, showing him which areas were less monitored, which humans might be sympathetic, and which aliens were strong enough to resist oppression if given a chance. Ethan realized that her knowledge of the colony's layout was unmatched. Humans could improvise, yes, but with her guidance, their actions could be precise and effective. Ethan started with fellow human engineers and technicians who had often expressed unease with the colony's strict rules. He explained carefully what he had seen, without revealing Lyria's presence to anyone outside their small circle. Some were skeptical at first, but Ethan's calm confidence and logical explanations won them over. These humans had always admired ingenuity and bravery, They recognized it in Ethan. Next, Ethan reached out to sympathetic aliens. Using the small gestures and tonal cues Lyria had taught him, he communicated a message of urgency and hope. Some aliens were hesitant, fearing punishment if they spoke out. Others, emboldened by Ethan's courage and Lyria's trust, agreed to join. One by one, a small coalition formed, humans and aliens alike, united not by species, but by a shared desire to protect those in danger. Over the next few days, the group worked in secret. They studied the colony's schedules, patrol patterns, and security measures. Lyria guided them through hidden passages and maintenance shafts, demonstrating where sensors could be avoided and where access panels could be manipulated. Ethan coordinated the plan, applying human logic to the complex alien systems. It was a perfect example of humans working alongside other species, using intellect and courage to overcome challenges. Despite the careful planning, tension was constant. Every sound in the quiet corridors made their hearts race. Every unexpected patrol or security light brought them to a standstill. But Ethan encouraged the team, reminding them that fear could be managed when purpose was clear. Lyria, though, nervous, began to smile faintly as she realized the humans she once feared could be her allies. One evening, after reviewing patrol data and rerouting communications, Ethan gathered the group. "We have a chance," he said firmly, "a chance to rescue those being held in the containment wing. But we must act carefully, and we must act together." The aliens nodded, their glowing eyes reflecting trust and cautious hope. The humans exchanged determined looks, ready to follow Ethan's lead. As night fell, the team moved into position. Lyria led them through the narrow maintenance ducts, her knowledge allowing them to bypass cameras and sensors with precision. Ethan carried his datapad, guiding the team with quick calc. Ethan's mind raced as he led the small coalition toward the heart of the colony's hidden operations. The night was quiet, the only sounds the soft hum of life support systems and the faint echo of distant machinery. But Ethan knew this silence was temporary. Soon they would face the corrupt officials responsible for the suffering of so many innocent beings. Lyria moved beside him, her luminous skin glowing softly in the dim light. She no longer seemed fragile. She carried a quiet strength, guiding them through secret passages and hidden corridors, alerting them to sensors and patrol patterns. Her knowledge was invaluable, and Ethan felt a growing respect for her intelligence and courage. Humans could improvise, but combined with her alien perception, their plan had a chance to succeed. The team approached the main control hub of the colony's secret wing. Guards were stationed near every entrance and monitors displayed the interior of the containment areas. Ethan crouched behind a corner, scanning the scene. He whispered to the coalition, "We can't charge in, we need a distraction." One of the human engineers, Mara, nodded. She had been with Ethan from the beginning, and her calm confidence made her a natural partner in this plan. Mara suggested creating a false alarm in a distant section of the colony, drawing the guards away from the control hub. Ethan quickly modified a portable device to emit signals that would trigger the alarms without endangering anyone. As the device activated, the guards rushed to investigate, leaving the hub lightly defended. Ethan led the coalition inside, moving swiftly but quietly. Lyria pointed out control panels, showing which switches could unlock the containment units. Ethan's hands moved fast, rewiring systems and decoding alien symbols, while the humans and aliens in the team followed his directions carefully. Every second mattered. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared. A hidden sensor had detected movement in the outer corridor. Ethan froze. He realized the officials had extra security measures, ones they had not anticipated. Lyria placed a calming hand on his arm and made a series of melodic sounds, signaling a safe route through a maintenance passage. Ethan nodded and guided the team, their movements precise and calculated. Finally, they reached the section where the most vulnerable aliens were held. Cages lined the walls and monitors displayed vital signs and energy readings. Ethan's heart sank at the sight, but he pushed forward. Using the data he had gathered, he began to unlock each unit. Lyria whispered instructions, pointing out patterns in the security system that no human could have noticed. One by one, the aliens were freed. Some were too weak to walk, so the team carried them carefully, ensuring they remained safe. The rescued beings looked at Ethan and Lyria with wide eyes, beginning to understand that help had arrived. Hope returned to their faces, a hope that had long been missing. Just as the last cage was opened, the corrupt officials arrived. They were armed, but Ethan did not falter. He knew humans could think creatively in moments of danger, and he had already planned for this confrontation. He grabbed a portable energy device from his pack and activated it, creating a dazzling burst of light that disoriented the officials. The coalition moved quickly, guiding the rescued aliens toward the exit routes Lyria had revealed. One of the officials tried to intercept them, but Mara blocked him with a clever maneuver, using his own momentum against him. Lyria, despite her fear, stepped forward and spoke directly to the official in her alien tongue. Her voice carried authority and emotion that the official could not ignore, and he hesitated, unsure how to respond. Ethan seized the moment, pushing the last group of aliens through a safe passage. By the time the alarm system was fully aware of their presence, the coalition had already reached a hidden corridor leading to a safe zone. Ethan looked back at the hub, knowing the officials would be contained temporarily by the confusion and the disabled security systems. Lyria's eyes met his, glowing softly. No words were needed. They had succeeded in the first phase of their mission. As the group reached safety, Ethan finally allowed himself to catch his breath. He looked around at the coalition, humans and aliens, tired but proud, and felt a surge of hope. They had faced danger together, relying on human ingenuity, courage, and empathy, and had saved lives that would have otherwise been lost. Lyria stepped forward, holding her glowing pendant tightly. She spoke in her melodic tone, and Ethan listened carefully. He understood the meaning not through words but through emotion. Thank you for believing in us, for acting when others would not. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. In that moment, he realized something profound. Humans had the ability to inspire trust and courage in others, even across species. The rescued aliens began to recover slowly in the safe zone. Some were still weak, but the hope in their eyes was undeniable. Ethan knew that the journey was far from over. The colony needed a complete change, and the coalition would have to continue its efforts. But for now, they had achieved something extraordinary. They had shown that compassion, intelligence, and bravery could overcome even the most hidden oppression. Ethan looked at Lyria once more. She no longer trembled as she had the first night he heard her crying. Her eyes held gratitude and determination. She had trusted a human, and together, they had achieved what many thought impossible. As dawn broke over the colony, the first rays of light fell through the observation windows. Ethan reflected on the night's events. Humans were far from perfect. They had fears, weaknesses, and doubts. But when those fears were faced with courage, guided by empathy, and combined with ingenuity, they could change lives, challenge injustice, and protect those in need. And somewhere in the colony, the corrupt officials, though shaken, would reconsider their actions. Ethan knew that exposure, combined with the coalition's determination, would prevent further harm. For the first time, he felt that justice, guided by human compassion and cleverness, could truly take hold. That night, as the colony settled into an uneasy quiet, Ethan stood with Lyria and the coalition. The rescued aliens slept peacefully for the first time in weeks, and Ethan allowed himself a small, proud smile. He had not only solved technical problems or bypassed security systems, he had restored hope, saved lives, and proven the power of humans to act when it mattered most. And in the quiet, he could still hear the echo of Lyria's first cries, the sound that had shaken him to the core. Only now, it reminded him not of sorrow but of the incredible journey they had begun together. The colony felt different the next morning. Sunlight, or what passed for it inside the artificial habitats, spilled through the wide observation windows, casting long reflections on the metal floors. Ethan walked through the corridors with a sense of quiet purpose. The chaos of the past. Nights had settled, but the work of rebuilding trust and ensuring justice was only beginning. Beside him, Lyria moved with a grace that reflected both relief and newfound strength. The small coalition they had formed was still close, helping the rescued aliens settle in safe quarters. Some of the aliens were weak from neglect or experimentation, but they were alive, and their eyes shone with a fragile hope that Ethan had never seen before. "Are they going to be safe now?" Lyria asked softly, her melodic tones tinged with both caution and curiosity. Ethan nodded. "For now," he said. "We've disabled the systems and exposed the officials, but the colony will need new rules and real oversight to keep them safe." Her glowing eyes widened slightly. "Humans. Help?" she asked, pointing to him and then to the rescued aliens. Ethan smiled gently. "That's what humans do," he replied. "We fix problems, protect others, and try to make things better. Even when it's dangerous, even when it seems impossible." Over the next several days, Ethan and the coalition worked tirelessly. They helped the authorities, those who were honest, investigate the hidden operations. Evidence collected from the containment wing was used to hold corrupt officials accountable. While some feared retaliation, the story of the rescue spread through the colony, giving hope to other aliens and humans alike. People began to see that courage, intelligence, and compassion could make a difference. Ethan often found himself walking with Lyria, observing the recovered aliens as they slowly regained strength. She had started teaching them basic safety routines and how to protect themselves in ways they hadn't learned before. Her natural understanding of their species combined with Ethan's human ingenuity made them a powerful team. One afternoon, they reached a quiet observation deck. Stars stretched endlessly beyond the glass walls, and Ethan thought about how small the colony seemed in the vast universe. Lyria placed a glowing hand on his arm, her eyes reflecting starlight. She made a series of sounds that Ethan had finally begun to understand, not as words but as a message of gratitude, trust, and hope. "You saved us," he said softly, more to himself than to her. "Not just with tools or plans, but with courage and care." Lyria tilted her head, a small smile flickering across her features. Ethan realized that trust, once earned, could bridge even the greatest divides between species. The coalition remained active, not just as protectors, but as teachers and guides. Humans and aliens alike learned from each other. Ethan noticed how the rescued aliens began to display subtle forms of creativity, repairing equipment in new ways, improving routines, and even helping other humans understand alien needs. He smiled, recognizing a fun,